I'm a fire in the laser!
Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Hope you're having a great day today. Today we're looking at the Lancer, and I'm not gonna give you one, but two builds. One short-range build, perfect for aliens and pathogen, and one long-range build, perfect to take care of those synths. Let's go over the abilities real quick. The first ability is Particle Lance. This allows you to fire a powerful beam directly in front of you, piercing through and damaging all enemies in its path. It is blocked by terrain, however, so keep that in mind. It also has two variations when we go into the perk grid. His second ability is Onslaught. The ability instantly reloads your equipped gun after every shot. It also increases your weapon damage and damage resistance by 20%. The offset is that you lose 20% movement speed and fire rate. Now, the penalties aren't that bad. The movement speed is not that big of a deal since, well, you'll mostly be standing still on higher difficulties anyway. And the fire rate can be compensated by taking specific perks in the perk grid and specific attachments on your guns. And his passive is Overwatch. No, not that Overwatch. This Overwatch. Every second you stand still or are in cover, you gain a stack of Overwatch with a max stack of 5. Each stack increases your accuracy, stability, and damage by 3%. Now, let's take a look at the first build, which I call the Pyro Lancer. Reason being is that we're taking the Vulcan with us. The Vulcan is a very powerful short-range weapon, but be careful though, it's also very powerful against your allies. Remember Apone, trigger discipline. For the Vulcan, we're taking the Rapid Dispersal unit to reduce the reload time. The faster we reload, the faster we get back into the fight. Polygonal Rifling for the 20% fire rate increase. This will already mediate the fire rate decrease from Onslaught, and the added 50% chance to deal 10% extra damage to targets pairs very well with our ability Onslaught and our passive Overwatch. And the Quick Charge Armature for more reload speed and the added 50% fire rate and 30% stability on hit. We're also taking the Pump Shotty with us. I know, I said Pyro Lancer and our CQW is the Pump Shotty. You can go with the Incinerator, but when a teammate gets pounced and you have no stun to get it off him, you don't really want to be using your flamethrower on it, so take the Pump Shotty. And not only that, but the Vulcan also has no weak point damage. This means that the Vulcan and its CQW variant underperform against bigger targets, like the Warrior, the Praetorian, the Stalker, etc, etc. So it's better to swap to your Pump Shotty for those targets. For the Pump Shotty, we've taken the Ported Compensator for more fire rate, the Priming Magazine for more reload speed, and a 30% fire rate buff on reload. This procs even after reloading one bullet, but be sure to let the reload animation complete or you'll miss your buff. And the Hybrid Sight for more accuracy and weak point damage. As for the perks, we have nothing equipped on Overwatch. Reason being is that both aren't that great in the grand scheme of things. Muscle Memory gives you aim assist and handling, which is not really great when firing with a Vulcan. And Omniscience is redundant when we take a look at another perk that gives us more damage. For Particle Lance, we're taking the Particle Wave Replacer perk. When fighting Xenos and Pathogens, they like to swarm your position, getting in close and locking you in melee. Particle Wave can be a nice mob clearer and is also good to stun bigger Xenos. The stun lasts for 3 seconds, so that's 3 seconds of uninterrupted free DPS on the big elites.
It's free real estate.
And that's not all, we're also taking Residual Charge with us, which leaves behind an electrical hazard at corpses of foes killed by our Particle Wave, dealing damage over time. And since Particle Lance and Particle Wave deal 9k damage unmodded, you'll be one-shotting those runners and severely damaging their bigger brothers. Those that survive are now stunned for 3 seconds in the residual charge left behind by their fallen allies, adding to your DPS. But wait, there's more DPS! Since we're stunning them, we can take Down and Out with us, which allows us to deal 20% more damage to stunned and knocked down enemies. And that's the reason why we're not going for Omniscience. Omniscience gives us an extra Overwatch stack, which leads to only a damage increase of 3%. The mobs can be one-shotted by your Particle Wave, but the big elites can't, so dealing 20% more damage to them is more important than dealing 3% more damage against everything. The bigger targets are also more likely to get stunned or knocked down by your allies as well. To round off Particle Wave, we're also taking a cooldown reduction perk with us. Batteries included reduces our recharge time by 5 seconds. You can forgo Down and Out for another recharge speed reduction perk, but it'll only decrease it by another 3 seconds, which is less worth it. just keep down and out. For Onslaught, we're taking the Rapid Assessment perk with us. Every time we activate Onslaught, we immediately get all our stacks of Overwatch, which is great. It adds to our DPS. This perk pairs really well with Relentless Advance, which causes us to not lose any stacks when moving. Now, moving doesn't happen a lot during encounters. Mostly you'll be funneling the aliens into a specific direction. Moving might make an ally hit you instead, but your position can always get overrun. So when moving back, you don't want to be losing your stacks while an important ability is up. Maximize that DPS. To maximize it further, we're also taking Tenacious with us. This perk increases the duration of Onslaught and also gives us a 5% damage boost. The damage resistance is a nice plus. So, when Onslaught is active and we proc down and out alongside Polygonal Rifling, we'll be doing 55% extra damage to stunned targets. Now that's a whole lot of love. While also being able to back away from said target if needed without losing any of that damage. And lastly, we're also attaching Rapid Deployment and Quick Charge 2 on Onslaught. This gives us a nice 33% recharge speed, which translates into a cooldown time of roughly 45 seconds. To round up the perk grid, we're also taking heavy weapon perks with us to increase our primary weapon, the Vulcan. We'll be taking the Demo Heavy Training with us for reload speed and max ammo, the Lancer Heavy Expertise for the fire rate and reload speed, the Demo Heavy Mastery for the fire rate and stability, and the Demo Heavy Expertise for more weapon damage and radius. But I said there would be 2 builds, right? Well, the other one is for when you're fighting against the Synths. When fighting against the Synths, you'll hardly get swarmed. Synths like to keep their distance, which makes the Vulcan kind of inefficient when fighting against them. Well, unless you go out of your way to get close to them, which I don't recommend. You're not a Phalanx, you don't have a shield. The second build therefore uses either the minigun, the smart gun, or the heavy pulse. They're all great options, but the reason I recommend the minigun or the smart gun over the heavy pulse is because of Onslaught. When using the heavy pulse, you really feel that reduction in fire rate. But with the minigun and the smart gun, it actually feels pretty okay. It feels like it hardly slowed down. For the heavy pulse, go with the Port Compensator, Polygonal Rifling, and Quick Charge Armature. Increase this weapon's rate of fire, people. The faster it fires, the higher the DPS. For the smart gun, go with the Tanker Muzzle Brake for more weak point damage. The smart gun doesn't start with any weak point damage, so increasing it is almost a must. And then, of course, Polygonal Rifling for the fire rate and damage boost, and Quick Charge Armature for the reload speed and fire rate. For the minigun, there are 2 downsides though, one of which is the ramp-up time, also known as the charge speed. But once you get used to it, it's a pretty good gun. The only other downside is the stability when firing in full auto, which can be managed by taking more stability. And because of that, we are taking the Precision Hider for more stability and weak point damage, Polygonal Rifling for fire rate and added damage on hit, and the Quick Charge Armature for more reload speed, fire rate, and stability. From the attachments alone, we already get 70% extra stability, but let's not forget Overwatch and our perk grid. For the Synth loadout, we are taking Omniscience instead of Down and Out. Since the Synths generally like to keep their distance, we won't be using the Particle Wave, which means Down and Out becomes a less attractive perk. With Omniscience, we get an additional stack of Overwatch, which means it gives us 18% weapon damage, accuracy, and stability in total. Combine that with our attachments and the Demo Heavy Mastery for 15% extra stability, and that's 103 extra stability on the minigun. It's practically a laser now. Disclaimer, might actually not be a laser. Speaking of lasers, we are replacing Particle Wave with Disrupting Radiation. This causes enemies hit by our Particle Lance to be slowed by 40%, making it easier to target them with our weapons. Since Synths don't swarm you and like to stay scattered, you'll get less mileage from Residual Charge, so we're replacing that with a Force Multiplier 2 perk. On its own, Particle Lance does 9k damage, which is just under the Synth Trooper's 9.4k damage on Insane. But with Force Multiplier 2, we can one-shot those pesky troopers again, since our damage will now be over 10k. The last perk I swapped was Relentless Advance. Since we're using Omniscience, we lose our stack every 3 seconds when moving. This is every 3 seconds per stack. And with careful movement, you won't even lose a stack during the entire Onslaught duration. Not to mention, against the Synths, you'll most likely be using cover anyway. Replacing Relentless Advance with a Duration 2 mod allows our Onslaught to last a little bit longer. And that's the only change between the builds. For consumables, always take cryo grids with you for more CC and a vulnerability assessment drone for more team-wide DPS. And that's it, guys. Those are the 2 Lancer builds I use for Extreme and Insane, and they work really, really great. You'll be topping the damage scoreboard with the Vulcan and be very effective against the Synths. But hey, don't take my word for it. Try it out yourself and see how good these builds truly are. And thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more Aliens Fireteam Elite, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss another upload. And I'll see you when I see you.
I have
GG's.
unlocked the door.
GG's.